Hello and good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining this week's episode of ATRAM's webinar series. Today we'll be having a special webinar with a very exciting guest. I am Paolo Idilior, Business Development Manager at ATRAM. I'd like to let you know that this webinar will be recorded and our copies will be disseminated within the day as well as posted on all our social media pages. Make sure to stay until the end as we will be wrapping up with a quick feedback survey. When it comes to personal finances, at some point in our lives, we have all made mistakes, whether it was because of inexperience, impatience, or simply a lack of understanding. I guess the bigger question to ask is, what did you learn from those mistakes and what did you do to correct them? Hopefully our presenter today will shed light on those as well as share tips on how we can prevent them moving forward. If you've gone through the YouTube rabbit hole quite a lot, especially during this lockdown period, perhaps Randell Tiongson would be familiar to you. He's a registered financial planner and is an advocate of life and personal finance. With nearly 30 years of experience in the financial services industry, may it be banking, mutual funds, insurance and financial planning, or management consultancy, he has become one of today's most respected personal finance coaches in the country. Aside from his training and speaking endeavors, he is also director of the Registered Financial Planners Institute of the Philippines, and is also a strong advocate of financial education for overseas Filipino workers. He has given lectures in 15 countries outside the Philippines. Good morning, Randall, and happy to have you here in our show. Hi, Randall. Can you on your camera and mic?
Sorry. Okay, so thank you, Paolo. Off pala.
Yeah.
Okay, good morning.
Yeah.
Good morning.
I just wanted to say that the last time I watched you was during the online launch of the new Digital Pera initiative of the BSP.
Yes.
And partner institutions, which of course includes ATRAM as well. Mm-hmm. And I think what you said there is significantly related to your topic today. So please, by all means, you may now share your screen.
All right. Thank you, Paolo. Yeah. You know, that session really, because of that, I had a lot of inquiries about the Pera. And I actually made the video out of it with Dino Basas. So, you know, I think a lot of people should take advantage of the Pera. Anyway, so good morning to everybody. My name is Randell Tiongson. And allow me to talk to you about something that's very, in a way, I know, you know, ATRAM has been great in coming up with a lot of programs. I've attended a few of these sessions and I believe they are really helpful. No, it's something that I wanted to also talk to you about is the other side of finance, the other side of investing. No, while it is important to understand technical analysis, economics, and everything like that, it is really more important to understand also how it actually personally relates to us. You know, there's an assumption that I want to be able to tell a lot of people. It's about the behaviors or the behavior patterns of people in investments. You know, I have been in the financial services industry for over 30 years. I know kind of don't look like it, but I am. I'm in my 50s and I'm going to be a lolo soon. You know, but anyway, you know, I remember, you know, all throughout the years I have been engaged in the financial services industry, investment, insurance, mutual funds, and all these things. I get to and of course I'm also part of the media side, no, social media, and I write and stuff like that. I have been doing a lot of interviews and observations, and I realized that those who are actually become successful financially and was able to build their net worth substantially was not because they're very good in their technical analysis or, you know, they're very complicated. In fact, when you look at their strategies or their investment siguro philosophies or principles, if you may say, they're very simple. They're very simple. In fact, you know, I remember there's this story I read about Warren Buffett. And Warren Buffett was being interviewed, and Warren was sharing how he was able to build the wealth. And that's a thing. And people said, that's so simple. If that's simple, how come nobody's doing it? I mean, very few people are doing it. And Warren Buffett said, it's because people always want to make money quickly. Nobody wants to do it the long way. And again, I want to take over from that behavior. Tayong Filipinos, we have certain behaviors that are something that I guess some of these are common, and I'm gonna zero in also on certain things. Some of them are common, globally, universal truth, but some of them are really unique to us, no? So that's just something that I want to be able to talk to you about, money behaviors. you know, one of the things that really, and this is important for me because I go out, I speak, I teach, I write, I encourage people, no, to be better at their finances. But sa Pilipinas, medyo iba tayo, no? And I remember having this talk with a foreigner the same advocacy, and he said something like, and I was talking about, we have to encourage Filipinos to save. We want to teach them not to spend too much, manage their debt, and so forth and so on. And he was baffled, and he said, "What? You need to motivate people to save money. Isn't that?" And because this guy is Singaporean, and he said, "Huh? Parang di niya magets, no? Because we have a different behavior patterns in the Philippines, and that's what we want to be able to talk to you about. Now, I want to start this statement that I always say whenever I'm asked to speak on topics like this. Okay? And I'm happy to be able to speak on topics like this. Thank you, ATRAM, for not putting me in another one of those investment and stuff. And this is something that I want to talk to you about. When it comes to money, people are not always rational, and that's always going to be the case. I remember there's an event I spoke for controllers, financial managers, and they're all finance people. And I was talking about the behavior patterns and how we need to simplify our ways to be able to build our wealth, manage our finances, and take control of certain things. And somebody approached me. She was a controller of a big organization, and she said, Randall, tinamahan ako sa sinabi mo. Bakit to, ma'am? Kasi, in the company, I'm the controller. Every peso that comes in and goes out in this company, I know what's going on. And yet, in my personal finance, it seems to be, sometimes I just, nagugulat na lang ako, uy, anong gastos ko pala, and stuff like that. And you will see that, no? We become so irrational. And that's why, sales like, upcoming 10-10, 9-9, 8-8, no? They go crazy, no? If I remember the time that they opened up the malls and stuff like that, no, during the pandemic or during the lockdown, people went crazy, that they had to, I think one SM had to close it again because of too much people. So they at the risk of their health, at the risk of those things, they want to be able to do that. I heard, no, because, for all the longest time, people were doing shopping online. But lately, the stores are doing better now. They increase in, because, people like to touch and feel certain stuff at the risk of their health. And you see that, no? It's not always rational, no? And stuff like that. And yet, we see a lot of people, and it's always baffling for me, no? Somebody would put money and save money in a very small savings account. I mean, very small interest savings account and maybe time deposit. And yet, will pay a higher credit card interest, no, for their credit card balance. Those things are not being rational. They feel, I need money, and yet you have utang. So those are the things that needs to be checked. And you see this, you see people are always overly optimistic, and you see that in the investment side, or severely pessimistic, never in the middle of the ground. So they don't become rational. You see sometimes a stock price will go down for no apparent reason or go up for not enough reason. Kaya nga hanggang ngayon, sa Pilipinas, uso pa rin ang hype. They can hype a particular stock, a particular IPO, and stuff like that. And it does work. For a while, it does work until it starts crumbling down. Why? There's no rationale behind it. And so I love working with ATRAM because, we try to look at certain things first. And I will never buy an investment until I think it's really sound. And people get into that. And di ko nadadagdag. I became quite a little bit famous for going after investment scams. So famous, it's kind of funny when I share it now, so famous that I actually got sued for libel for going after the scams. The leaders were so annoyed and angry at me that, parang they came up with a complaint about me that, citing libel and stuff. Sabi ko, how can this be libel? SEC issued a warning, BSP had a warning, TTI had a warning, even PNP had a warning, no? That scam was EM Goldex. And yet they were able to file. And sabi ko nga, how can this file? I mean, that's the Philippine judicial system. Last na, when I was talking to kasi alam mo I got to familiarize with how the courts work, no? May fiscal, may assistant fiscal. So a lot of these are assistant fiscals. And when I was talking to the boss and I was asking, how can this be filed? Alam mo yung nahiya siya para sa ginawa sa kanya. Eventually, that was dismissed. nahiya siya, parang na-file yan. Paano naging liable yan? I was citing rulings by the SEC, advisories by the SEC. So how can that be? So that was a lesson. But and that's crazy. And yet billions were taken away. Last year I went around Mindanao. A company brought me for financial education. And specifically, they brought me to 3 cities in the Mindanao because ang lakas ng doon. What was that scam? There was a big scam. I forgot it. Sa dami na scams natin. There was a big kappa. There's a big kappa in Ryan. I was in Jensen. I was in Tagum. I was in Davao. And I was talking to a lot of people. And a lot of them, they really believe that they are not scams. In fact, I spoke to not one, but a couple of them. This is not the first time they got scammed. Some of them, they're on the third time already. Sabi ko, paano ka nasa scam again and again and again? Why? Because when it comes to money, they are not rational. And that's why when you look at our lives today, when you look at our financial lives of average people, of course, not from my friends from ATRAM. They know how, they're probably very, very good in the way they handle money. But kaming normal people, kaming average, no? Kaming mga usual na tao. When you look at our financial lives, it's crazy. It's like a roller coaster. It goes up, it goes down. Pag bagong sahod, mataas. Pag bagong kita, mataas. And then it goes down. I'm very clear. When the pandemic started, some of them who were from financially up went to financially down. Why? Naubos yung savings, not enough emergency funds, and so forth and so on. And then they realized that they made bad decisions with money, bad investments, naniwala dito, naglagay ng pera doon, and so forth and so on. So that these things happen. Or some of them are legitimate losses. Example, you would be, what if you invested in something like a restaurant or restaurant stock or business? Of course, they would go down. People eat a lot, but I think most of these restaurants are now at 25-30% of their usual capacity. So, diba? Malamang hindi kikita talaga yan. So you see that's happening right now, businesses and so forth and so on. Now, the pandemic, remove that. Even without the pandemic, people's lives are always like this. People's lives are always like this. You see this a lot of people. Why? It goes up, it goes down. It's crazy. Why? It's not because of course the markets are crazy also, but the market notwithstanding, it's because our behaviors tend us to be like this. And that's a reason with the average Filipino, pag bagong sahod, maraming pera, towards the end, nagbabago na yan. I have this analogy, no? Pag bagong sahod, they would drink coffee, and when they drink coffee, it's branded. So Starbucks, Seattle's Best, or Toby's, my favorite Toby's Estate. So, makita mo mga ganyan, di ba? Okay. And eventually, na-realize na they cannot sustain it. They will now convenience store coffee, 7-Eleven, mini stop, then Jollibee. And then mamaya 3-in-1 na. Pag malapit na sweldo, ano ba? Amoy na lang ng kape, pwede na. Copy ko na lang. This is the crazy stuff that happens to a lot of people. And it's a pattern. It goes up, it goes down, it goes up, and it goes down. And that's why financial education, and I want to thank ATRAM for inviting me. This is very important. We need to do something about this. And it's only education that can change this. That's why money is behavioral and not mechanical. Now, I'm a personal finance advocate. I teach people how to budget, how to invest properly. Things that are, I try to advocate for simplified things like cost averaging, buy and hold, yung mga ganyang bagay, no? And yet sometimes it doesn't really work. No? Why? Because when it comes to money, money is behavioral, it's not mechanical. Everybody knows it's good to save. And yet very few people actually do it. Okay? Everybody knows that when the market is down, it's good to invest. And yet very few numbers will show you very few actually do it. It's the reverse. When the markets are crazy going up, people invest. When the market is down, people pull out. Diba? Nag-i-invest ka kung kailan mataas, nagpo-pull out ka kung kailan mababa. And that's crazy. That's irrational. Why? It's a behavior because of fears come in and so forth and so on. And that's very important to talk to. Now, let me quote this guy. Favorite guy ko to. He's so no nonsense. In fact, I have to make amen a little bit. I kind of, in a way, yan ang peg ko. In a way, sometimes I actually copy him. I like him because he's so no nonsense when he talks about finances. He removes all these jargons and all this, stuff and stuff like that. And pretty much what I do. I can talk to you jargons, but doesn't matter if nobody's going to understand me. And he said something that changed my perspective and even the way I teach. He said that personal finance is 80% behavior and only 20% head knowledge. And it's important that we understand the behavior side. Because pag puro head knowledge yan, that's not enough. And personal testimony. I grew up in the financial service industry. I took up economics in college. First job was in a bank, moved to insurance companies and stuff like that. So in terms of financial education, it's always there. I mean, it's always here. And yet I went through a lot of financial difficulties in life, especially in my 20s and my 30s. Oh, parang tagal-tagal na nun, ano? Okay, why? Because my focus was, I should have focused more on the behavior side rather than the head knowledge side. The head knowledge, I mean, magaling ka nga mag-invest, magastos ka naman. Diba? Kaya nga maraming stockbroker broke eh. Joke yan. Okay. Sorry, ATRAM. So maraming ganon, di ba? That's the story about these things. Personal finance is more behavior. It's less about head knowledge. While head knowledge is important, we need to take a look at the set behavior. And that's what I want to share this morning to all you guys. No? Let me talk to you about the behaviors. These are the common behaviors and the common pitfalls for some people. I call it the CFGI. Ano ba yung CFGI? C stands for control. And I think this is where, if you ask me, more than coming up with the perfect investment portfolio and so forth and so on, this is more important. This is the control side. It's your ability to manage what comes in and what goes out. Remember, investments is only deferred consumption. If you consume everything, then you cannot invest. And that's very important. Your ability to control, to build up your cash, to build up your savings, will also be your ability to be able to disperse that and to invest it properly. I met this guy during my corporate years. I used to be part of the corporation, or what you call a corporate slave. Okay, joke lang. I had to, of course, I had to support. I had the training. I had to support. Somebody called me, one of our financial guys, sales guys, and he said, "Sir, can you come to?" Because I go around the country. Can you come here? When you do come, I want you to talk to my client or potential clients. Because sabi ko, what's the problem? Nakakainis, sir. Bakit? He has 80 million in savings account, not earning enough. Tapos ayaw niya makinig sa akin sa investments. Ang tanga niya, sir eh. Sabi ko, iho, unang-una, huwag mong tatawagin tanga kliyente mo. Siya may 80 million, ikaw empleyado, di ka mga tumatarget eh. Di ba? So sabi ko, of course, it's my job. I went there and I spoke to him and was talking to him. And he said, you know mo, Randell, okay naman ako eh. You know, because 80 million was his cash. He had properties, he had a business interest. And sabi niya, I'm content with what I have. I don't need to grow that anymore. It's more than what I can finish. And true enough, sabi niya, they give me this card na may rewards. I can go to a mall and use it. Now you know what I'm talking about. You know what bank he puts his money in, diba? They find ways, no? Okay, so that's important. Galing niya. He was okay and was happy with it. And I was able to convince him to put a little bit. But at the end of the day, I understood. So ako naman, the curious guy in me, diba? I was interviewing. I tried to find out how he was able to build this well. He was a simple businessman. It's not even a huge company, and yet he had a lot of. He had properties in the hundreds of millions and cash of 80 million. I mean, who has cash of 80 million today, diba? I mean, at that time, and I was talking to him, and sabi niya, alam mo, he shared. It's so simple, Randall. Eh. Matipid lang naman ako eh. Tapos dahil matipid ako, may lagi akong pera. Tapos may kumpare ako, 'di ba? Dahil magastos sila, nagipit, binenta yung lupa sa akin. Dahil nagmamadali, binili ko ng mura. Okay, ako yung may cash, so binili ko yan. So ipon-ipon ulit. Yung isa kong kumpare, 'di ba? Ganyan din nangyari. Yung katabi ng property ko, sabi niya, binili mo pala, pwede mabilin. Eh may pera ako, natawaran ko pa. So he did a lot of these things. And then later on, he was able to amass, land bank a certain area. That town was a sleepy town at that time. Now that's a certain part of a big city, pero dun siya sa parang parang undeveloped site. Then eventually, because of time, that area became developed. A mall came in, and that mall is SM. And SM wanted to buy a lot of land. And he had the most prime lots. Dikit-dikit pa yung kanya. Bam! He bought it. He bought it at what? A multiple of 20x the amount he paid for. Was it a master investor in there? He just had He just, because of his control, because of his behavior, he was able to build this wealth. And many of people who I've gotten to interview, to talk to, and friends of mine, when you look at the way they were able to build, it was simple, but it was because they know how to control. They know how to control what comes in. And I say this to a lot of people. If you can't control your money, making more won't help. That's the problem, eh? If you can't control your money, making more won't help. That's the situation. We have this tendency to always, how can I earn more? How can I earn? And that's important, by the way. I'm not saying it's not important. It's important. You need to earn more money. I earn more money. But at the same time, earning more money is not always automatic. What you can control is the way money goes up. So what you do is, while you're building your capacity to earn more, and that's very important, you also know how to control. Now, I don't believe na control lang. Okay? Minsan talaga sobrang liit na income, you need to be able to build. But it's a combination of both. So control it, do it properly, and that's very important. How you handle a 10,000 peso income will be the way you handle a 100,000 income. And the people say, Randall, that's not true. That's true. A student who mismanages his allowance will be a worker, will eventually mismanage his wages until something tricks realized. And I see that. I've traveled all over. I do about, prior to the pandemic, I do about 150 of these talks. During the pandemic, this year, because of the pandemic, I'm actually doing more. I do 3 or 4 sometimes in a day. And I travel. I've spoken to many, many Filipinos, and I've seen that. OFWs used to earn 20,000 here, now earning 100, 150,000 there, still have the same problems. Baon pa rin sa utang, and worse, now the utang is even bigger. It's how you handle it. It's the control. Okay, very important. Okay, you have to learn how to know how to handle it. It means budgeting and all these boring finance things. It's very, very important for everybody. And that's why I tell a lot of people. I mean, yes, I'm in my 50s. I'm going to be a lolo soon. But I speak to a lot of millennials and young people. And I always like to remind them, don't do the same mistakes I did when I was in their age. I felt that I was so invincible. I can earn it. I can spend it. You know, God has given me, blessed me with the capacity to continue to earn money. I've never had the problem of earning money. My problem is controlling that money. And that's why I had the financial, my 30s were full of financial difficulties. That's why I tell people, just be simple. Don't go broke trying to look rich. The old cliche, that never spend more than what you make, or always live below your means. And these are something that a lot of people are forgetting. And the most basic of everything that is important, we go investment and stuff like that. I've done a lot of interviews, I've done a lot of YouTubes on these things. Pero babalik pa rin tayo. This is something that, we cannot forget. Okay? The next, I'm having CFGI, sorry. The next one is fear. On the flip side, this is another behavior of a lot of Filipinos. Very few actually invest. Very few are always so fearful. And that's the reason that despite of all the very few people invest in the stock market. It has improved since maybe the 90s and the early 2000s, but it's still very far. I mean, you would see countries wherein 50% of their people invest in the stock market, or 30%. I mean, I think for many first world countries, it's somewhere between 30 to 50 to 60%. And that's a big chunk of the population. Tayo, what? We're still below. I mean, we're still that 1%. There are conflicting studies. I saw 1, I saw 3. Anyway, all of these studies will be below 10%. Way below everybody, despite that the Philippine stock market is one of the oldest in Asia, despite of all these things. That's why our capital markets ayaw mag-grow. Diba? And stuff like that. We very, very few people. Mutual funds, UITFs, it made it easy for people to understand. And yet, this is where that's why I'm very, very adamant about teaching people. Mas okay pa mga scams eh. Mas malakas pa makalikom ng pera yan eh. Okay? And yet, what's going on? People are so fearful with legitimate investments to a fault. Why? Maybe they don't understand, or maybe because that's just who they are. What they need to understand with fear is to know more about what they're getting into and maybe adjust their investment portfolio so that they're not as fearful. Kasi ayaw mo na stocks, pero may bonds naman eh. 'Di ba? I mean, there's something that you can consider. And that's why a lot of people are still afraid. The fear, it becomes a crippling thing. Okay? And that's what I tell a lot of people. Alam mo, sabi nga ni Randall, pandemic, ako sabi ko, mag-invest ka na. Bakit? Money not invested is money spent. I'm speaking from personal experience. Money not invested becomes money spent. And that's why I'm a big fan of things like the digital pera and monthly savings and monthly auto debits. I'm a big fan of those things because it's important that we set it aside. There are so many options today. It's not just ATRAM. Everywhere you go, there's so many. Of course, I love ATRAM. I put a lot of money there. But you see that not because of the fear. Now, fear is important. Huwag naman masyadong bold. Okay? That the opposite side naman, sobrang greedy. So very important you fear. Pero make sure that you know. And education helps you. Due diligence, studying, and maybe speaking to somebody who can guide you, can help you, will really be a big plus. Now, this is what's in the mind of a lot of people today. Lahat sila takot, free falling. And then so the doom and gloom stories that you hear from a lot of people, and media is also partly to blame with that. Crazy, parang end of the world. I was talking to this person, influencer pa naman siya, and he's a finance guy supposed to be. At one point, he was so afraid. Sabi niya, Randell, magbabank na ba? Hindi ko naman ma-withdraw pera ako sa bangko when the pandemic was happening. I was like scratching my head. Sabi ko, that your behavior or fear is overcoming your senses. Okay? I mean, that's not gonna happen. I mean, it can happen, but today it's very unlikely. And that's what's happening right now. People are so afraid. When it goes down, everybody writes. When going down, and this is what I tell a lot of people. It goes down, yeah. I've seen money. I stopped looking at my reports. No? I stopped looking at it. I just want to get this over with and grow. But I keep it. I know money is going down, but I am not fearful. Why? Because I know what comes down will eventually still go up. That's something very important. Okay, so where are we going? Where are we heading? The fear takes over. Because of the fear, all our senses are... This is the problem with what I'm sharing. The CFGI, lahat to, okay, nasisira ang diskarte mo. That's why you couldn't save, you cannot, in all these things. And worse, and this is like the problem the worst. Boosting ko na lang pera ko, ma-enjoy ko pa. Kaysa invest ko yan, kaysa i-save ko yan, di ba? Yung mga tao, alam mo yung mga tao, sobrang, because I speak to everybody, it's not always, very, very highly educated people like you in the crowd today. I speak to everybody. And sometimes, sabi sa akin, alam mo, sir, ganda rin yung turong, tipid-tipid, di rin pwede yan, di ba? Sagot sa akin, aanin pa ba ang damo pagpatay na ang kabayo? Sinabihan ako ng ganun. May sagot ako sa kanya. Sabi ko, bakit? Kabayo ka ba? Okay? Kailangan mo pa rin yan. You need to be able to build that later on. So, yan. And this is why, buti nga, nandito na tayo sa right side. I remember I was talking to one of the guys of ATRAM, my friend Jun Tarobago. We were talking when this was here. Okay? I don't know, Jun, if you're here, you were talking about when he was here. So we didn't know where it's gonna. Ngayon, medyo klaro na. That's why I love looking at the charts, no? So when you look at the stock market for 1 year, diba? This is where we are from over 8,000 to I think 3.9 pa yata ito, no? Very short lang naman, and then we're now hovering at like below 6,000. And when people see that, I don't want to do that. I don't want to lose. Who wants to lose money? Honestly, nobody loses money. Nobody wants to lose money. I have yet to talk to somebody na happy siya pag nalulugi siya. Walang ganun. Okay? That's why it's important to understand that fear doesn't engulf you. Okay? Number one, if you have money here, nalugi ka, what do you do? Of course, people, especially when you're investing like a fund, people say, cut loss, cut loss. Cut loss talaga? Yun talaga best strategy mo? When are you gonna come back? When do you want to put it back? Okay, if you're buying stocks, I get it, individual. But when you're doing investments or funds, I may not recommend that. So this is where the story is. But in reality, education and understanding and why it's important makes you change your mind. The reason why these things, yes, I am concerned. I'm not saying that I am not concerned. I am concerned. Okay, I'm so concerned I don't even look at my statements anymore. I am concerned this is happening right now. Okay. But remember, I've been doing this for many, many years. And I also realized that if I wait long enough, my waiting will be rewarded. This is how, as to why there is a gap here, I don't know with Market Watch. Okay. But basically, this is how the market has performed. I'm putting in 1980. This is the time I started working and being part of the financial service industry. Over 30 years. Tanda ko na pala. Okay. So, we see that, no? You see where we are, where we're going. Here, it goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. So, when you understand how investments do work, well, fear is still a factor. Fear becomes less crippling. Because what I just need to know is I just have to wait. I have to invest according to my objective. Example, my case, I am 53. Large of my investment is for my retirement. I'm not going to retire in 7 years. In 7 years, we might have a second pandemic. I don't know. Maybe every decade meron yan or something. I don't know. Every crash. I was investing in the 2008 crisis. I was investing in the 97 crisis. And we've seen this happening. And I've seen it also recover. Of course, I'm not bullish to say this is, the pandemic is what it is. But people are more resilient than we give ourselves credit for. So I know markets is going to recover. It will have a new economy, a new look, okay, maybe new companies. That's why it's important to trust your fund managers. Were they able to I've always interviewed them. I see are they looking for the new trends and stuff like that. So very important. So you look at that. So here's the thing. If you invested anywhere here 10 years ago, 2010, and you are here today, yes, you have lost from last year or 2 years, but if you're invested from 10 years ago, you're still on a gain. Okay? And eventually, that's what I tell a lot of people. So imagine mo if you're just, I get a lot of arguments because I teach people cost averaging because I talk to average people. I'm not talking to, stock analysts and stuff like that. I'm talking to regular people. For regular people, cost averaging works for them, especially if they're doing it through a fund, an index fund or, an alpha fund or whatever. So, ganun lang kita mo, up. So, okay sila. That's gonna work. Fine. The next behavior that we need to take control of is greed. And you see this happening. On the flip side, the average Filipino are very fearful of the market. The few who are actually in the market, ito naman ang problema. Kaya susceptible to hype. They would buy a stock na walang matinong valuation. Fundamentally unsound. Because, they hear it and they do it and they want to make money. And ako, I used to feel like this, no? Like IPO, then it went up, then I feel bad, I did buy. I stopped feeling like that. It's okay. I can always catch it again. You need to remove greed because greed is one of those behaviors just as crippling as fear. Fear is in the opposite side. Greed is in the opposite side. But both of them are crippling. Too much fear, okay, will prevent you from experiencing any gain. Too much greed, okay, too much greed in itself is not good. Though, if there's some Gen X people here like me, remember the movie Wall Street? No, I was starting to work at that time, so I loved the movie Wall Street. And it said greed, for the lack of a better word, is good. It's not good. It's caused all of these financial failures, the economy, and stuff like that is greed. Greed is the number one reason why people succumb to scams. Okay, it's greed. So again, be careful. Remove greed. Kasi greed makes you so irrational. It's so irrational. I cannot understand how people can believe a lot of these questionable investment schemes. It's greed. It's greed that blinds them. So very careful. Be careful sa greed. Okay, the next is ignorance. Okay? Some people, hindi naman greedy, hindi naman fearful, pero naging ignorant lang. Hindi nila inaalam. Why? Maybe they trust the person talking to them. That's why investment scams are proliferating because they use people to talk to people. Kamag-anak, kaibigan, kapitbahay, somebody they trust. Sometimes, like in Mindanao, what really was painful for me to hear and to see was that even pastors were involved, pastors, priests, because they hold such an influence. So people trust. Not that they are greedy, not that they are wrong. Their intentions are always good. The problem was their ignorance. The ignorance got the best of them. Okay? So ignorant. Hindi porke kumikita ang investment, okay yan. Okay, titignan mo pa rin saan ang gagalingan. So, again, the fear, the control, the fear, the greed, and the ignorance, this is a deadly combination. In fact, sa scams, greed and ignorance combination, that's what's really gonna happen. Iba naman, kaya fearful, di na naiintindihan. That's why I like to take a look. I mean, I don't like to invest in the stock market. I don't like index funds or mutual funds or UITFs. I just show them a 10-year chart. Okay naman pala. Oh, that's very important to take a look at it. Okay, so ignorance is very important. Education is such a big key. You need to be able to start to teach people properly. And thank you, ATRAM, for doing these sessions. No, thank you for doing this. Now, the reason why, sorry, baka may na-offend dito, no? Alam mo to, meme na to, joke na to eh. Open-minded ka ba? Tara kape tayo. When people offer you investment, new businesses, strategies, and they want to do be careful. Practice the control, the fear, the greed, the ignorance. Make sure that you don't get into something you don't understand. Make sure that you know how to be able to see these things. Baka mamaya, and I see this in OFWs, I see this in a lot of people. They borrow money to invest. Why? Na-hype eh. They think it's the greed coming in, it's the ignorance coming in. That's why when they get offers like this, they're now susceptible. Okay? For some reason, nobody has come to me and asked me this. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I take such a strong stance. But that's the problem. Okay? Whenever somebody talks to you, and even the person, you going around, you looking at, not everything you see in social media is correct. It's true. In fact, a lot of them are not. So very important. So this is something that you need to understand. Now, and that's why I tell people, I like to echo what Warren Buffett, but Warren Buffett was not the one who started to think of it. It was written 3,000 years ago. In fact, the Bible, the Word of God, reminds us. Proverbs 13:11 says, wealth from get-rich-quick schemes quickly disappears, but wealth from hard work grows over time. I get it. You want to make money quickly? I get it. I also feel that way. But I also realize that real wealth is built over time, not overnight. You build your wealth 1 peso at a time. You don't do it overnight. You do it over time. And the thing is, with time is a great way of correcting mistakes. Time is a great way of, time is your greatest ally. If you're a millennial, below 30, wow, nainggit ako sa inyo because, you're living in great times. All you have to do is just set aside money for these things. By the time you're 50, you realize how these things. But coming na sa 50s na, medyo maiksi na yung oras namin. And one of my greatest regrets in life, I should have invested and saved more money when I was in my 20s and my 30s. Why? Because I felt I can always make money quickly, build wealth easily. Now, because I'm old, I'm a little bit wiser. I know this. The Bible has taught me many, many things in finance. It says that the wealth from get-rich-quick schemes quickly disappears. Wealth from hard work grows over time. That's why I look at the Bible as my best financial book. Okay? Why? It teaches me. It corrects me. It corrects my behavior. And that's why money is behavioral. Okay? That's something that you need to understand. Now, because of our wrong practices, among other things, among cultural nuances like money is relative. The more money you have, the more relatives you have. And the over-dependence, we have created this, the sandwich generation. Now, while the sandwich generation is pretty much happening anyway, everywhere, the Filipinos and many Asian countries are really, we get the blunt of this. You're working, you're supporting your parents financially, and then you're raising your children. Under this situation, it's very, very, very difficult. Very, very, very difficult to build substantial resources. Kaya mangyayari, if you don't do intervention, without programs like this, without investing, without financial education, mangyayari ngayon, this guy will, while supporting the parents, raising his children, this guy will become old because of this structure, hindi yan nakaipon, this baby will not take care of this person and start the struggle again and again and again. Do you know that that's not what it's meant to be? I mean, socially, it's a good thing. I mean, I love Filipinos because they're very careful. We always take care, okay, very caring. We always take care of our own, especially our parents. We love them. I'm a parent. Okay? You know, and but I also understand that I don't want to be a burden to my children. Why? Every time I will get money from my kids, it's actually getting money from my grandkids. I'm going to be a lolo soon, so I'm really looking forward to that. And that's important that you need to understand. My obligation is to them. Their obligation is not to me, it's to their would-be children. And I hope a lot of Filipinos understand that. While socially it's a practice, it's not meant to be, just to prove my point. The Bible, and that's why, you know, when we get old, that's the problem, no? Yeah, we can either be a burden or a blessing to the family. And just to prove a point, the Bible says in 2 Corinthians 12:14, says here that children are not obligated to save up for their parents, but parents for their children. When I was doing a talk, every time I try to insert this. Why? I want Filipinos to understand we were not meant to ask money from our children. In fact, the Lord wants us to be a blessing to them. 2 Corinthians 12:14. For children are not obligated to save up for their parents, but parents for their children. And I want you to understand this morning, this is our motivation. We want to be able to build our future so that we can be a blessing to them. Think generational. Now, doon sa mga sumusuporta sa mga magulang nila, okay lang yan. Huwag nyo naman i-screenshot tapos biniber nyo sa nanay, Nay, hindi mo na ako magbibigay. Bakit anak? Kasi 2 Corinthians 12:14, for children are not obligated to save for the parents. But hindi na ho para sa kanila yan, para sa atin yan. For those of you listening, take heart of what I am telling you because I want Filipinos to be a blessing to the generations afterwards. And why is it important? Proverbs 13:22 says, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, but the sinner's wealth is laid up for the righteous. Galing, no? A good man, if you are to leave something for your children, then you're considered a good man. And I know one of my mentors, his name is former BSP Diwa Gunagundo, and in one of my events called Icon, no, he said, alam mo Randell, we should teach people. And he called this a good man leaves an inheritance to his children. And because the economist that he is, sabi niya, it's called the impossible theorem. Sabi ko, imposible pala yan. Yes. That's why we need to do something about it so that we can be a blessing. And that's why, you know, he's encouraged me to continue to teach people. So a good man leaves an inheritance to his children, but the children is laid up for righteous. Last anecdote, no, or story. One of my good friend and mentor, his name is Rex Mendoza of Ramper. And then we had this discussion with my wife. And, you know, he was telling us about how he's preparing for the future. And I've always had this belief that I want to be financially independent so that I won't depend on my children. But it stopped there. And what Rex told me, alam mo Randell, hindi enough na financially independent ka. You might also want to be able to leave something for them. Leave a legacy. And that's sabi ko, hindi pa pala ako tapos. I need to be able, that's why I still continue to work and stuff. Why? While we are in a way okay preparing for our old age, we are now also starting to, at least we want to be able to leave something for our children. That's why I buy insurance, I buy property. I want to leave them with something. Now, if maubos ko yan, fine. But if kung may matira, better. And I'm now considered a good man for leaving an inheritance. Unfortunately, many Filipinos don't leave an inheritance. The inheritance that they leave is not a good one. Ano naman mo sa tatay mo? Ito, diabetes o utang, worse. Diabetes with a J. Okay. That's why I came up. I wrote this book, sold 65,000 copies of this book since 2013. Wherein I outline, you have step 1, improve your cash flow. Step 2, get out of debt. Step 3, emergency funds. Step 4, insurances. Step 5, investing. And I tell people they want to be able to do all of these things. But take baby steps. Your control, your fear, your greed, your ignorance, your behaviors will allow you to be able to go through this. Some of them you can even do simultaneous. Like some people were able to do 1 and 2 at the same time, 3 and 4 at the same time, or 4 and 5 they can at the same time. But sequential yan. So I want to encourage a lot of people to do this. And that's what, and thank you, ATRAM, for giving me a platform to be able to share this. Now, don't be fearful. I know times like this, it's very hard to think positive. It's very hard to think that, it's very hard to be hopeful. But I tell a lot of people, we live by promise and not by situation. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Just to backtrack now, when you read Jeremiah, prior to that, the Israelites were sent into exile. They went through a lot of hardship. But the Lord tell me, fear not, I have hope, for I know I have a plan. I have plans for you. You may not be in that perfect financial situation today. Hold on to the promise of the Lord. That we live by promise and not by situation. Right? And that's why this is very important. The flip side of the money is money can control us. Money can change us. In fact, money is a maximizer. It maximizes the good in you or the bad in you. But here's what I tell a lot of people, and this is what I believe. Money is only a tool. It's not the end goal. In fact, huwag mo masyadong mahalin ang pera mo, hindi mo madadala sa langit yan. Pag nadala mo sa langit ang pera mo, sigurado ako, di ka sa langit napunta. But it's only a tool. A tool for what? That's something that you need to find out. Establish yourself, prepare for the future, establish your kids, but use money for a greater good. And that's why I tell a lot of people, Filipinos by nature, and that's why I love teaching people, Filipinos by nature are generous people. The problem with that is that we don't have money to give. That's why manage our money, build our wealth, invest properly, so that later on, eventually, at the right time, we can be a blessing to others. And I always end my sessions with this. I tell them that wealth and the ability to create wealth comes from the Lord. And it is not for our own purposes, but for His. Money has an eternal value. You just need to understand. That's why generosity, paying it forward, helping people, this is something that you can use with money. For me, my personal view, I use it for the advancement of God's kingdom. And that teaches me. That teaches me because I am liable to what to do with that money. The Lord owns my money. I can control my behavior. I can save more, I can invest more, and I can give more because I understand. All right? I understand this. I wrote certain books. Many of those books, because of the pandemic, are out of print. But I have the book, Build Your Future. You can check my social media on how to get that. And next week, I'll be launching my newest book. It's the No Nonsense Infographic Guide. It's like an Instagram in a book. Okay, it's very visually stimulating. No Nonsense is available in Kindle. The rest, my printer just reopened, so that's why we were gonna naubos na lahat ng libro. No, I've sold over maybe 120,000 books already. And I'm thankful that people actually are more interested in these things than before. You can also catch me in Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. I've done YouTube interviews. I think there are 3 or 4 people from ATRAM, great resource people. They're my friends who I was able to talk to, and you can check them at my YouTube channel. Okay? And then you can check also I also blog, I also write for The Inquirer, and so forth and so on. So, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Wala akong TikTok. Huwag mo ka na TikTok. But in all of these things, you can check me. With that, thank you, ATRAM. Thank you very much, and God bless all of you.
All right. Thank you, Randall, for that very informative and inspiring talk. And sa mga viewers natin, please keep the questions coming. And at this point, Randall, I think this is one of the most exciting parts of our webinars, wherein we will be answering Q&A live from our
I hope
audience.
I can answer that. Okay.
All right. So first question is, ano po ang masasabi nyo sa mga taong nagsasabi na hindi mo raw may enjoy ang buhay mo pag naging matipid ka? Life is short daw and YOLO.
Okay.
Tawag pa nga sa iyo, kuripot, when in fact, mas inuuna mo lang yung needs mo.
Okay. Alam mo, hindi mo rin ma-enjoy buhay mo pag wala kang pera. I think that's something I tell a lot of people. Try, try enjoying life. Nagipit ka, hindi ka makabayad ng utang or ang dami mong juice. I mean, I think that's very important to understand. I think, I also blame a lot of these finance speakers and everything that anything that they talk about is pagtipid. There's a balance. I don't tell people na magtipid. I tell people to be wise. Okay? You need to just, it's an issue of priorities. It's an issue of time. You can spend it now or spend it later. I recommend, you want to be able to make tipid now, but eventually you do that. In financial planning, it's not about, it's about maximizing your life cycle or your standard of living, pero without sacrificing your future. So you have to find that tricky balance. The correct, that's why in your budgets, dapat merong wants, merong needs pa rin. May needs, may wants pa rin. You just have to do adjustments along the way. You do not, depriving yourself doesn't work. So allow yourself, example, let's say your income is 50,000. Baka meron kang 5,000 play money dyan, di ba? Don't guilt-free spending. These things really help. I love coffee. A lot of this finance speaker, wag ka magkape. Parang kasalanan ka pag nagkape. I love coffee. What do you do? So, I cut on other things. And I did the other things. I now brew my own coffee at home. And I do it better. No? So, yung mga ganyan bagay, there are other ways for you to be creative so that you can need to want that. I am been married for 29 years. I can't always tell my wife we cannot buy, we cannot do. We need to travel, I need to invest on memories with my children. This is all important. Lahat yan may resources. So, nasa pagbabudget lang yan.
All right. Thank you for that. I agree with your point that making your own coffee is the best because you can control so many things. All right. Second question. Granting that I have money, where do you think, saan ako pwedeng mag-invest that since I am already a senior citizen and I have children and I want them to to invest their money as well?
Okay. Kung senior citizen ka na, so your options are limited. You don't want the volatility. So you're now limited to things like money market and maybe even bonds. So don't go into an investment na mataas yung volatility. So although ako, feeling ko kahit senior citizen ako, magka-stocks pa rin ako. Pero liliit na lang yung percentage. Pero kung hindi mo kaya volatility, stay away. There are bonds, bond funds, mutual fund, UITF, money market, and today even some digital savings are doing well. You might want to consider that also.
All right, thank you for that. And what kind of investments do you recommend for young people? Do you have any suggestions where to invest for those who are just starting to invest?
Young people, I think stock market. Sabi nga nila, Randell, do you recommend the stock market to young people? Of course. Why? If they lose their money, they still have parents. You can be bold. Kasi this is something that you can understand. There's gonna be volatility. I'm assuming you're buying the good stocks, no? But time is in your time is in your advantage. And along the way, because of time, you learn how to invest better. So you want to take a look at that. Pero syempre portfolio. Like, example, I am 53. I would not have a 70% equity, 30% fixed income portfolio because I'm old already. But if I'm 25 years old, I can do a 80% equity and 20%, savings and stuff because I probably don't need the money. I probably still earning well. Some of them is still live with their parents and so forth and so on. So you want to take a look at that. So either start doing investments. I recommend you start with funds and then you venture out into individual stocks. The best strategy is not whether stocks or funds. The best strategy is always a combination, a hybrid. Learn that, and since you're young, invest in education. Watch all of these ATRAM webinars. They're really, really helpful. Buti nga ngayon, libre na itong mga seminars, di ba?
Yes, and I guess just to add, having a reliable partner and trusted partner like ATRAM would also be a very wise decision in terms of starting to invest. Yeah. So let's move on to the next question.
Okay. Oh, by the way, just for transparency purposes, I invest in ATRAM. So, yun lang, para alam nyo lang. Okay, I'm a client also. So, funny, I got an email inviting me to my seminar today. Diba? Kasi I'm also a client. Okay.
Salamat. And was it wise to get insurance first than building an emergency fund?
I think this is something that you need to do if you can do it at the same time. I think. you can do it at the same time. It's very important that you do it. Pero kunyari, limited yung funds mo, siguro unahin mo muna yung emergency funds. Kasi emergency funds naman may limit yan eh. Pag na-build mo na yan, then you can start. Or maybe 1 or 2 months worth, and then you can start a cheaper type. Depending on your situation, if you're married, you have people are dependent on you, yes, you do it. But if you're single, no one's dependent on your income, you can defer that a little bit.
Yes, I think it's also important to recognize our life cycles, no?
Yeah. Also, it's always buying anything, whether it's an investment or insurance or property, it's always on a need-based. If you need it, then prioritize it.
Alright. Ito mas specific naman, Randall. Ilang percentage po ng income yung dapat i-save? Paano kung walang masisave kasi maliit ang sweldo ng karamihang Pilipino?
Yan. So, babalik pa rin tayo to, this is a classic question, no? So, kasi when you handle your finances, dalawang component yan, no? Income and expense. So, you have to look at both ways. Most people say tipid, and for many people, that doesn't work because sakto na lang talaga eh. So, the next thing you have to do, what can I do to increase this income while controlling my expense? What you need to do is to have that buffer, that increased savings. So what you need to do is look at your cash flow. What can I cut? What can I do this so that meron kang savings? And then while you're building your income, kasi very important, it's never just about controlling expenses. It's about earning and spending properly. It's always a combination of both. So that's the first thing I want to do. What can you do to earn more money? Maybe sumideline ka. Diba? Ngayon, ang daming pwede. I mean, I know a lot of people because the pandemic became highly entrepreneurial. Kawawa nga ako kasi lagi ako naaalokan. Diba?
Yeah.
Marami na akong nabiling ube pandesal. I call it the pandemic product. No?
At saka sushi bake.
Sushi bake. Everybody became, I think I've ordered a lot of those things. Yan yung mga bagay. And they made money. I mean, I'm not gonna blame them. They it's good. So, they were able to do that. My daughter used to bake cookies, no, para may extra siya pag Pasko. And then eventually, I think she might go into that. So, these are the things that you need to be able to learn. Now, once na stable ka na, maybe you start by 10% of your money to be saved, then you build it to 20, and then ultimately, you can build it to 30. So, it's something that you do over time. Now, kung malakas ka na kumita, then maybe baka kaya mo na ng 50. So, adjust mo yan. I mean, formulas are good, but they're very individualistic. Depende sa situation. Single ka nga, tapos ang dami naman dependent sa'yo, di ba? I mean, parang single ka, mas grabe ka pa sa married kasi, di ba, lahat ng kamag-anak sa'yo nakadikit. So, you have to learn how to adjust.
Alright, thank you for that. Ano po ba ang pinagkaiba ng trading and investing? At ano po ang pinagkapareho nila?
Okay.
Ano po ang pinagkaiba ng sugal sa trading and investing?
Okay. Trading, they're all, of course, trading and investing, most of them will deal with the stock market. So pareho lang. Traders, they are more active. They buy low, they sell high, they time. They can buy now and sell it later, buy now, sell it in a week, or stuff like that. So ito yung mga traders, they're really looking for market action. Investors are more passive. So I buy now, I forget about it, I use it when the objective is there. Example, I'm investing for my retirement, I will only look at those things pag malapit na ako mag-retire. Or I want to buy a house in 5 years. So mga ganyan. So, ang objective changes and the strategy changes. So, ako personally, not a trader. Hindi ko kaya eh. I don't have the time. Matrabaho kasi trading eh. You have to understand. In investments kasi, there's also such a thing as technical analysis. Kung wala kang time mag-aral or wala kang time tsagain yon, ako, I don't do that. So, I'm really an investor. Sugal is another way around. I mean, you just want to... people say, stock market sugal. Hindi yan sugal, no? Because sa sugal, it's really by chance. Stock market is, if you study it enough, technicals and fundamentals, you can now see emerging patterns and so forth and so on.
All right, thank you for that, Randall. I think I just wanted to add also that in investing, there's research. So it's backed up by hard data. While in gambling or sugal, you're solely reliable on probability or or
Yeah, it's
chance.
just pure chance. Okay,
It's
so
just pure chance.
yeah.
So at this point, I would like to welcome our Chief Investment Officer, Mr. Philip Hagedorn, to ask a question to Randall.
Ako
Phil,
patay.
are you on the call? He wanted to ask this personally. So
I normally ask Philip, so that's the other
You
way
know,
around.
and every time I listen to you, I learn something new. No matter how much experience you have, I think, thank you for joining us. I'm going to ask you a question that's a little, I'm conflicted in it because, you know that historically my family was in the stockbroker's business. I'm now an asset manager. But if you were to open your first investment account, would you seek a stockbroker or an asset manager? How would you?
Personally,
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why I wanted to ask you because, like I said, I have a good answer for both. But what
ako
would you do?
personally, I would go with asset management first. Because of the simplicity, because of the convenience, because of these things. Because I don't also have the time. If I'm gonna wait to study, to learn, even if you have a broker, your broker will it's just an order taker one way or the other. I mean, you have to verify their recommendations as well. So I would rather go with a fund first, and then as I build that fund later on. And that's and Philip, this is the problem what we're experiencing anywhere. We see it OFWs. They start with stocks first, and then eventually realize they cannot manage it, and they move to funds afterwards. It's supposed to be the reverse. As you build your acumen, as you build your experience, then you can now start little by little, be a more of a hybrid. So the answer is, I don't know. I've always been a funds guy. It's kind of weird. No? I get into a lot of arguments with a lot of people. I get bashers myself. But that's the way to do it. Eh. Hybrid is good, but if you're young, start with funds, learn. Don't be too bold. I think a lot of Filipinos, they want to be the hero agad. You know? They want to be, I want this result. It doesn't work that way.
Thank you so much,
All
Randall,
right.
and more power to you, brother. More power.
Thank you, Philip.
all right. Just here, I have a very interesting question. Due to the pandemic, I lost my job in the hospitality industry. I don't have any steady income. However, I was able to save. I have a few small investments. What should I do with the saved income to help it grow? And how much of it should I invest?
Oh, that's tricky part. Number one, no, I think your number one, I guess, priority is how to generate income. I think more than you're concerned about growing your money. I think what's more important is you going back there, changing maybe your strategies in career, doing other things, and so I tell a lot of people, no, one of the things that the pandemic did is it taught us how to be humble. Maybe start again with something, even if it's not earning the way you're supposed to earn. There's no shame in taking a peek out and stuff like that. What is important is that money starts to come in. Investment is secondary. Now, when assuming that it's marami ka na ipon, I would recommend you keep a lot of them safe because you don't know when the next money is coming in. Eh. You might live off your savings. But maybe if you want to be able to still grow it, maybe you can look at other less volatile investments like money market and stuff like that. So, yan muna. Now, once you start earning again and you get your finances moving, I think then that's a time. Maybe you can take advantage of, ako today, if I have extra money and money still coming in, I would look at the equities, no? And I hope I don't sound and I do not toot your horn or anything. I would look at Alpha Opportunity of ATRAM. I would look at the Tech Fund of ATRAM. These are the things that I personally love and put money in. You can verify that because yun, kasi pumapasok pa naman ng pera sa akin. Eh. Pero kung hindi na pumapasok ng pera sa akin, I would probably change my strategy.
All right. Now, okay, let's go back to the last time I watched you. And if you can just add some color, because what you said struck me. Eh. What you said was, wala akong nakikitang tamad na langgam. Is that correct?
Yes.
I was walking in the garden one time. I was observing ants. And can you share more about that wisdom? Because I think it's nice to highlight as well.
You know, in the book of Proverbs in the Bible, go to the ant, you sluggard, consider its ways and be wise. We were being taught about how to be productive. I think one of the most important things you need to do in life is to be productive. Eh. You need to be, in fact, I don't want to sound preachy, but the Lord ayaw ng tamad yan eh. Kaya nga when you read the Bible, you wicked and lazy servant, may mga ganyan mga statements ang Panginoon. No? But I really tell you, He wants us to be productive. I mean, we want to rest, that's why there's Sabbath, but He also wants us to be productive most of the time. So, kailangan masipag. You know, the world has tricked us into thinking, don't work hard, work smart. Well, those are nice to hear, but I have not met anybody that naging successful na hindi masipag. So, that's the first component. I've seen that, and I say that the other part of that is hindi lang masipag, masinop din. That's another one. It's a Filipino word, masinop. And you look at the langgam, masipag yan, okay, pero masinop din yan. And that's why they never go hungry. So very important. Successful people, my mentors, I've seen them do both. I mentioned kanina, one of my idols, si Rex Mendoza. Sobrang
Which we
sipag
had.
ng tao na yan.
Yeah,
Si Rex.
we had him here 2 months ago.
Oh, he's there. Okay. Sobrang sipag ng tao na yan, puts me into shame despite of his, age and everything and status. Sobrang pa rin sipag niyan, and stuff like that. Pero I saw him, especially in his earlier years, I saw him how masinop he is. I remember seeing him, who's a president of a mutual fund. Presidente na yan, nagbabawon pa rin siya ng lunch. And some employees, they find shame in making baon, but this guy, and he is a model for me to follow. So, masipag and masino. And then eventually, you can begin to enjoy also.
All right. So, Randall, what are your thoughts on Seedbox, ATRAM's platform? And can you somehow relate that or put that in a nutshell with regards to pera?
I've been a fan of Seedbox for a long time. I was a little impatient because ang tagal bago mag-take off ng Seedbox, the way but I love it because of the convenience. I tried opening and I was happy, it didn't take me a long time to open, so I can actually, I'm a traditionalist. I still use brokers, I still course my funds through Rampver. I love that. But sometimes I also want to do it online. So the Seedbox helped me do that, And then next, what I think I love it is that ngayon pwede na yung digital pera. Yung pera kasi, alam mo, if you're in the financial industry, matagal na naming pinag-uusapan yan. I think 20 years na yata to or coming or all this. I remember in 2007, I got a call from the late Senator Angara and was asking me, getting my feedback about it. 2007 yun. Kailan napasa and everything. And the sad part is, when they actually launched it didn't actually click. Nobody was putting money. You go to the bank, nobody knows about it. And it takes you, tama ba yan, weeks to get something like that. The digital pera corrected all the mistakes. And that's why when I was part of that launch and everything, I was so excited. I'm really looking forward to actually opening through the seed. Pwede na ba? Kasi last time I checked, hindi pa. Pwede na? Okay. So, it's something that you want to be able to. Guys, maximize it. It's easy. It takes you 3 days for you already open an account and grabe, it's gonna really help you build kasi the tax and everything, and it's a forced savings element. So test it. That's why I tell a lot of people, you just try it. It doesn't hurt to try. Hindi na siya mahirap, di ba? I mean, opening a GCash and opening a pera goes through the same process. And if you can go to the same process to spend, maybe you should go to the same process to start investing. So props to the digital pera. It's about time. I reminded me Monday, I'm going to open mine.
All right. So the stars already aligned. Government agencies agreed.
It took a long time.
Yes. And I think the only thing left to do is go to www.seedbox.com.ph to check that pera product, pera platform out.
Yeah, I think every Filipino should put up a pera. Everyone. I mean, if there's one of the things that, aside from the financial education, I want every Filipino to come up with their own pera. I want all financial institutions to participate in that pera. We need to grow that. We need to change it because only 8% of Filipinos prepare for retirement. What do we do with the 92%? The answer, pera will help.
Randall, I would like to thank you very much. And if you have final words for our audience, please, you have the floor.
Oh, thank you, ATRAM, for having me. I love what you guys do. I love what you guys represent. And for all those listening, and if there's something that you want to be able to pick up here, is take time to do something, learn it, but and I want to quote my friend Rex again. I keep on quoting him. Have a bias for execution. Kasi yun ang problema natin eh. Behavior side, we don't also execute. So start with a little bit. Put up a seed box, put up something. 1,000, 5,000, whatever is fancies you, whatever, or start an online account, whatever, a broker account, just start and then build on it over time. That's it.
All right. Thank you, Randall, and to our audience as well for your questions. If you have any further questions or would like to learn more about ATRAM's funds and strategies, please get in touch with your relevant ATRAM relationship manager or visit our website, www.atram.com.ph. At this point, we would like to ask if you can please answer the survey at the end of the session, as your feedback is valuable to us. We appreciate you taking the time to join, and on behalf of ATRAM, I would like to wish for the safety of you and your family. Best of luck. Thank you very much and have a great day.